Well, good morning. I'm over here at the shop and we're having a bit of a kerfuffle. I just think I got it cleared up. I was in there talking with Astrid and Klaus, unfortunately. This is my new cedar. I had to buy it. I'm gonna drive off before I tell you. I don't want to get into any trouble here. So yeah, new cedar. I had to buy this. Let's head back to my yard. I need to put some seed in here. So last month I checked in with Astrid and she made it clear pretty quickly that I was going to have difficulty renting equipment, specifically the cedar. For one, because it's spring and a lot of farmers are very busy planting right now. So I might have not been able to rent it anyway, but also apparently a lot of the equipment came from that farmer who's mad at me, and also other farmers on the island, require goodwill between them and don't want to get on his bad side by renting the equipment. So the long story short of it is I cannot rent equipment for the moment. I'm gonna have to deal with this soon. I've got to make good with that guy because I can't afford to buy everything, and I don't necessarily want to be spending my money on buying everything. So anyway, after Astrid made it clear I could not rent a cedar, I started looking around for auctions, and I found this thing on the mainland. It is old and very used. I don't know how long it's gonna last me, but if I can get a few seasons out of it anyway, I guess that's a starting point. So I bought it through the auction, had it shipped out on the ferry, like all of the stuff that we get from off island, and when it arrived, the shop claimed it. I have no idea what they were thinking. I don't know what Klaus was thinking about trying to say they had anything to do with this. I'm so upset. So the dock worker who I spoke with last month, who loaded stuff into the shipping container for me, the honey that I was selling through the import-export, he works officially for the import-export company, but he also does a lot of loading and unloading of other goods on the ferry because he's the only dock worker down there, basically, and he knows how to use all the equipment. They bring in other people sometimes when it gets busy, kind of like my neighbor Gunter goes to help out the shop when they get busy. Everybody here has multiple jobs. Jorg was told this equipment belonged to the shop, and normally when new equipment comes in, it goes to the shop, and whoever ordered it through the shop goes to the shop to collect it. In this particular case, I bought it directly through an auction. It didn't go through the shop. It never should have been at the shop. They've had this thing for, I don't know, a week or two, and I've been just fighting with mainly Klaus, and poor Astrid has been in the middle, and I just need to deal with this. This is just getting ridiculous. So, I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. I am going to get the seed loaded into the cedar. I've already got it pulled out of my stack of pallets in there. And I'm going to get this over to my new field on the other island. And we'll get the seed in for something to feed the chickens. Some sort of grain. I think I'm going with sorghum. I think it's the only thing I can plant at this time of year, and then maybe when I harvest it, I can plant a fall grain for them. So yeah, that's my plan. I'll see you over on the other island when I'm putting the seed in the ground. all done. This thing may be old and used. These little tine things seem like they're barely hanging on, and I see a couple of these springs are actually damaged. I'm probably going to have to replace them. But it did the job, and it used very little seed. So I guess I'm glad I own a seeder now. This went really quickly, and it is looking great. I need to get the roller over here and roll the field just to make sure everything's got good soil contact, and it will germinate nicely. While I'm here, that farm up there, or that farmyard anyway, on that terp is the one that my nemesis occupies. I don't know if he's around right now. He might be out in his fields already, but it's early. I brought him a loaf of honey wheat bread that I made with the honey from my own bees and the little bit of flour that I still have left from milling from the harvesting last year that I've been feeding the chickens. I watched a YouTube video and found out you can actually mill flour in like a small quantity with drill. It was a lot of fun. Very messy, but I got something that didn't have too many hard bits in it and made a loaf bread, peace offering. And I also brought a jar of honey over. So hopefully I can talk to him like a regular person, explain that I thought I was doing the right thing for the dog, and try to see if we can fix up this relationship, because for one thing, having to buy equipment is not going to work long term. I don't have that much money. But for another thing, having somebody here on the island, this is not a very big island. Islands, the Hallig is small. And having somebody who is unhappy with me and making it hard for local businesses to do business with me, and also potentially making the neighbors not want anything to do with me, I should avoid that. So I'm going to go try to talk to him, see if I can put things right. If you don't hear from me again, this didn't go well. We'll see. That did not go well. That did not go well at all. That man. Infuriating. Infuriating. He's old enough to be my dad. He should know better. As you can gather, that did not go well. I'll tell you about it on my drive back. I need to go get my roller. Maybe I should have waited to do this until I was done working over here. He's there. I spoke to him. He accused me of being some stupid American trying to buy her way out of her problems. First of all, it was a homemade loaf of bread and bee honey that I harvested from my own bees. Thank you very much. I did not buy any of that. It was a gesture of goodwill. He said something about Americans always doing whatever they think they can and getting away with ridiculous stuff and just... I don't even know how to respond. I can't decide if he's being totally xenophobic or... I mean, it kind of sounds like there's some truth to that, because Americans can be pretty entitled. I'm not going to argue that. I'm trying, in good faith, to become a part of the community here, and it's very upsetting that he won't budge an inch. He completely shut down when I talked about the dog. But even before that, it's so bumpy. Even before that, it was kind of obvious he wanted nothing to do with any sort of good faith gesture on my part. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, obviously we got off on the wrong foot with me damaging the crops in his field, but I thought, paying him for that, acknowledging it was a sign of respect, and we could just move on. I don't know if he's just a curmudgeon to everybody, if he has some particular beef with Americans, or if he's just really insular. He's, like I said, old enough to be my dad, and he's been living on this island his whole life, so maybe he's just super hostile to outsiders? I don't know. I'm gonna have to get some more intel and try to figure out what the deal is. I want nothing to do with trying to mend this fence now, but the reality of living here means I have to keep trying, as much as I don't want to. It's so frustrating. Alright, I'm going to drop off this cedar, try to find a spot for it that's out of the way, and pick up the roller and to get back over there and roll the field that I just planted. And hope I do not run into him again while I'm there. See you in a bit. Well, that was interesting. I just had a little coffee and some bread at the bakery here with a neighbor of the farmer. Better get out of here before I say too much and get her in trouble. She came over while I was finishing up rolling that field, which is all... You know, I really like it in town. I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit and talk to you. Such a pretty area over here. Oh, these boats. Let's see if I can get closer to one of them. These boats are like the little ones that they have the scavenger hunt for. They look like that. So if people who are visiting the island find one of these little boats on one of those marked spots, it can net them $100,000. So yeah, while I was finishing up rolling over there, a woman came down off the terp and said she didn't want the farmer to see her talking to me, so she asked me to meet her here in town for a coffee, so I did. And she gave me a little more backstory about the whole situation. It kind of makes me like him more, but also there's no excuse for that kind of behavior. He has 2 kids. They both left the island. He was dedicated to his farm forever. Didn't spend enough time with the kids. They resented him for it. Very common story, I think, when a parent is a working parent who's devoted to what they're doing. And when his wife passed away, the kids left the Hallig and they almost never come back. I don't know why he's taking that out on me. Maybe that just makes him grumpy in general. But he's been very determined to preserve the community and also resistant to people who come in with outside ideas. Maybe that's some of it. Maybe he's worried those outside ideas are what took his kids away from him. Why would they want to go to the mainland otherwise? I don't know. I don't know what his deal is. It has unlocked a little bit, but also there's more mystery there. Anyway, she said the dog was kind of a point of pride with him because he was, I think, what Americans would call a frenemy with the other farmer who lived on the chirp who moved out of there. The guy who had the big cow yard who left to move to the mainland and left the dog here. They were kind of friendly rivals. They kind of jerked each other around a little bit, but also helped each other out. And evidently it was a big honor to this grumpy guy when the neighbor decided to leave the dog because it was some sort of acknowledgement that the dog would have a place here with the grumpy guy and he trusted him to look after the dog. Apparently the guy who moved out really loved the dog, which why would you leave a pet that you really loved? I don't know. I don't really understand this culture, I think. Anyway, the fact that I've taken the dog now, that was left to him as a sign of honor that he could look after it, sort of challenged his honor. Like I was saying, he couldn't look after it and he was doing a crappy job and he's got all this internalized rage at me now, which may be partially guilt that he has not done a good job with the dog. I don't know. What I can tell you is it was well below freezing last night and every night for months. The high today may not get above freezing. I'm out here in winter coats and hats and thick long johns and boots, and Bernie, the dog, does not spend a lot of time outside in the cold with me. I bring him in at night. I don't leave him out too long unless he's like running and really active and generating a lot of heat. He was living outside on that other island. There's no way he was warm enough, and he was so skinny. So, whether or not the guy thought he was doing a good job, he obviously wasn't. It seems obvious to me anyway. So clearly I've stepped in a hornet's nest here, and it's all now wrapped up with his personal sense of honor, and I don't know. I don't know how I can fix this damage. But I'm not sending the dog back. We're gonna have to come up with something else. It's really lovely here. I think my wife would have loved this place. I didn't talk about it last month because I didn't really want to. Didn't really know how. It was the 1-year anniversary of her passing. In some ways I'm doing better. In some ways It feels like yesterday, and I still have all of this rage and injustice about how unfair it was that she just was taken by this stupid illness, and how unfair it is that my life is not what I was building a few years ago. And I'm just unhappy. But maybe less than I was when I moved here? We'll see. Anyway, this is where I live now. House back in the States is sold. I don't know how long I have to keep my stuff in storage to convince my friends that I'm determined to actually stay here, but evidently it's longer. So yeah, this is my life now. Fighting with an old dude whose sense of honor I have inadvertently stepped on, in a culture I don't really understand, surrounded by people whose language I don't speak, but it's frickin' beautiful. Well, that's maudlin enough. I'll leave it there. I will catch you all next month. It'll be time to mow and bale up some grass and hay for the sheep again. And there's always something to do to keep us busy. Catch you next time.